Barshens is brought to you by our awesome patrons. Thanks for supporting the channel.
Barshens!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Barshens. Hello, Stuart.
Hello, Barry. How you doing?
I'm good. We're here in London Shire, yet again.
We are indeed. There is no escape for us.
YouTube space where there's black curtains, and also today's guest.
Segue. It's Paul Rose, a.k.a. Mr Biffo.
That's me. Oh, thank you very much.
Is he our first guest? We've applauded.
First guest?
First guest. Is he our first guest?
Guest.
We had many guests.
A man
from Gloucestershire.
I don't know. First, I don't know.
Well, I'd like to think that I may be the first.
I think,
you probably say it to all the guests. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that one line. So we do the intro, then we introduce, and then we do the...
Yeah, then we clap and then say we never clap.
Yeah, we do need a canned laughter and applause button, I think, definitely.
A badum-tish as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one of those machines that does all that.
Oh, come on. Oh.
That'll really annoy Alec on the sound. So
And
that's
I'll just
fantastic.
get like a generic clown horn.
Every recording you should have a new prop that makes an annoying noise. A vuvuzela.
Yeah.
And within a year, it's just a mass of things on the table to make a noise.
The random noise box. Just pull it out like a recorder from primary school as well.
Oh, nice. Jesus' hands were kind hands played. Yeah.
Were they?
Rattle.
Were they?
Oh, that's a classic. Isn't
What's
it?
that?
Yeah.
Oh, one of their
Football rattle,
yeah. But were Jesus' hands kind hands? That's
That's what the song said. I mean,
yeah. I mean, they were.
How kind.
Yeah, that is the question.
Did they do dishes and were as soft as your face? You know, we just don't know, do we?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Paul, anyone that is not aware of you as well as yourself and Stuart and I, can you summarise yourself?
Well, there's a big question. I'll try and fit it into a large nutshell. Most people tend to know me as Mr Biffo, not my birth name, for which I did a thing called Digitiser, which is you can find on YouTube now and the website. And in my day job, I write kids' TV. That's mostly what I do for a living.
That's awesome. And you from London? You always lived in London?
Yeah. I live about 2 minutes from my parents' house.
Oh, awesome.
That I grew up in, and I'm not very adventurous.
Awesome. I really want to get into the whole kids' TV thing, and of course Digitiser, which was crowdfunded, and we both made an appearance on there.
We did indeed, and all ties into the ye oldie Digitiser.
Yes, from teletext.
Yes, from back in the day, which
25 years ago.
Oh, don't say that.
I was 21 when I started.
Oh, wow.
Jurassic Park's 25 years old as well. I bizarrely had that conversation this morning over breakfast with my kids, looking at films.
Did you write Jurassic Park?
I did, yeah.
Bloody good job.
If I'd have done it, I'd have put talking dinosaurs in it.
Oh.
Talking, dancing dinosaurs. Oh, there he is.
Wow. Talking dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Was it Theodore Rex? That Whoopi Goldberg film?
Was that an animation?
Unfortunately not. So she was a policewoman and her partner was a dinosaur. Like a guy in a suit.
Oh, now that rings a bell. Yeah.
It's probably
Is that kind of like the classic Turner and Hooch combo? But let's take it up a notch.
In a world where dinosaurs are police for some reason.
I think I said West Country.
Yes.
West Country movie dub.
Would be very good police though with it.
Little boxing gloves.
And would they have kind of human-sized handcuffs or little miniature ones?
Oh.
That's actually quite good to handcuff a T-Rex. Would be very easy, wouldn't it? Because it's already like that. It can't really escape.
True. We've got to get near his arms. It's got that giant mouth first, doesn't it? Yeah.
Should we have a sharticle?
Let's have a sharticle. Let's begin with a sharticle. Well, kind of begin. We've kind of begun. Sharticles. So, from Plymouth Live, or as live as Plymouth gets, meet the incredibly quirky people, that's a bad start, isn't it, who waved a Pringles tube about on Plymouth Hoe.
What's Plymouth Hoe? Is that a place or?
No, it's a garden.
Don't
implement.
Just stir that up.
We're all thinking it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I don't think I say it. That's what happens. I'm sorry. So they waved a Pringle tube about.
So, more than one person, and probably more than one Pringle tube. Let's find out.
Crazy kids.
Yeah.
What? Mad lads. It really is, isn't it? Yeah.
Get out, go to a club, see the world. No,
one bloke travelled 125 miles from Bristol.
Oh.
Was it you? To show his support for bizarre stunt. A bloke who loves crisps.
Is that a band?
Travelled 125 miles from Bristol just so he could wave a Pringles tube about. They're doing that thing of repeating it, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's always annoying.
And so did you.
Yeah. I've fallen for their trap.
Yeah.
More than 1,000 people initially said on Facebook, that means nothing, that they would rock up at the Get Your Hand Stuck in Pringles and Wave It Around bash. That was apparently the official name.
Wow.
But in the end, only 9 showed up.
Wow.
Yet those who did make the effort came far and wide.
So, obviously, for the video folk, they might be able to see a picture or you just Google it. Is there a photo of like people?
Yeah.
They look like T-Rexes as well, aren't they?
Some of the
on your
people are
arse.
surprisingly elderly, but yeah.
So basically 9 people showed up to wave.
A Pringles tube.
It made it as a news story.
Yes, that's what's going down in Plymouth. Very little.
What are they waving at?
Nothing.
Just like anything.
Trying to bring down aircraft.
Was the Pringles tube full? That would be a task.
Yeah.
It's
I'm actually
hand shredded by Pringles.
Yeah.
Look at the pain from the salt.
That'd be quite pleasing. Do you think, like, as you crush them?
Would you be able to do it though?
But it gets so compacted.
Oh, yeah, because you only get halfway in.
It's like kind of, Kung Fu when they kind of chop through grease blocks and stuff. Then you chop through a stack of Pringles.
How small can you compact them? Bruce Lee on the end of it. Yeah.
I'd love to do that. I'd love the karate chops and Pringles.
It's quite cheaply done.
Yeah,
Give
that's
it a go.
it. Yeah. Poor man's karate chop. Just, wow.
Some great quotes from the guy who came from Bristol. Some people turned up, which is more
Can
than
you
I
do it in a
expected.
Bristol accent?
No, I'm not very good at the Bristol accent. Okay. Some people turned up. You see,
they're not from like cartoons, like Wile E. Coyote or whatever.
Yeah, you sat on a porch, kind of on a rocking chair. Storm coming.
You got
the McGinty brothers are causing trouble again.
That's exactly how they talk in Bristol.
Some people turned up, which is more than I expected. So you expected none, presumably.
Okay.
On Facebook, people tend to put they'll come along, even if just for a laugh. But I thought it'd be funny.
I do that, actually.
Ate some Pringles. It's an excuse.
It's a living, isn't it?
Yes. Eating Pringles gets a job done. It's good to wave them around, meet some people, and have it on Facebook as a bit of banter. Oh, the next bit is the classic. Awkwardly, the organisers of the event didn't show up.
Oh, no.
And said that they had a fear of missing out after missing their alarm.
Wow.
One of the organisers, Poppy May Landham, said, "It's actually kind of funny. My alarm never went off and I woke up literally at 2 p.m.
So
What time did she go to bed?
We just linger on that for a minute. Like, once you Poppy May Landham, you can't stop it, May Landham.
Hang on. So we've got the waving the Pringles tubes like your air traffic control. You've got Poppy May Landham. Not she definitely will, yeah.
Wow.
Me and my friends also organised it, sat watching it unfold on Facebook. We had major fear of missing out because we did plan to go and had no ideas others would actually show up.
Oh, that's the organiser then, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
We made it semi-ironically. Just write it down as students having too much time on their hands and too many Pringles tubes on their hands as well, apparently.
I just don't know what they're waving at.
Well, perhaps. Here we go.
There's a bit
perhaps Poppy May Landham was an air traffic controller.
And
she was waving the playlist in because Poppy May Landham.
Yeah. She's trying out a new... it's cheaper than table tennis bats, isn't it?
One over there. Lying there.
Sam Pepper, 22.
Sam Pepper?
Not that one. No, not that one. No, not that one. Ooh.
Yeah.
Went to the event with 2 of his friends from university. He said, "I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed. But the true fans did turn up. And that's all that matters."
The true fans of waving Pringles.
Yeah, apparently that is a thing.
Wow.
So we've looked at 2 potential changes to Jurassic Park now: talking dinosaurs and Pringles tubes
with extra little hands on the end,
and planes landing as well. That's it.
That's how the film ends. Just crash.
T-Rex would probably need one of those little cans. You know, the
kind of stubby ones.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ryan, of that?
I'm fucking hating this conversation.
Defiling the memory of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
I happen to know that Mr Biffo doesn't like Pringles because of the texture.
Yeah,
Really?
I don't know how I know that. I
How do
genuinely
you know
don't.
that?
I don't know why that's stuck in
They're
my
a
head.
bit dinosaurish in
I just
texture.
feel processed.
Yeah.
At family events, if we have like a barbecue or something, I always buy a load of Pringles and then the nice crisps because I know the kids will go for the Pringles.
Yeah.
So I use them as a kind of way to kind of lure the kids away
Yeah.
from my nice crisps.
They're quite addictive, I think. Like, once you like
Once
the
you pop.
phrase, you can't. Yeah, they literally just like straight
I
down.
bought some the other day because they're now making them out of rice. Rice Pringles with weird flavours. And we
What
tried
weird flavour? Yeah.
chicken tikka masala, which was sort of a little bit too accurate in the taste and not that good, and some sort of hoisin duck. And
I think
that
I've
was
tried
it.
those.
Yeah, and they were very spring oniony. They were both a bit shit.
Oh, okay. You're not a fan then?
No, sorry, Pringles. If you want to sponsor us,
You got a like Pringles tab just there, like, just blurred out. Like,
Hard cut.
you know, it tastes like shit, but I can't stop eating them.
New Gary Lineker, like, oh god, swimming in them. Like, oh.
The Pringles challenge. See how many you can punch.
Yeah. But you can do the duck thing, can't you? The Pringle. That's the other good thing. If you
That
don't
is
like
true.
the taste of them, there's not many other crisps that you can make a duck face with. So
That is true.
Remember that, people.
They must put them in a mould because Pringles have
Oh,
got
they
that.
are. They're
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
pro. Yes,
It could be
all
in
mushed up and
the arch of someone's shoe, maybe.
Maybe.
That would do it.
Top of their mouth.
Yeah, it is a very.
There's somebody at Pringles HQ. He has to get the
there's a whole production line of people.
With a mouth open.
They put mashed up processed potato in their mouth. Then get some sort of pestle in there.
God. It takes 6 hours for it to dry.
We did get a robot in, but it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, it tasted good.
Yeah.
You know that chicken nuggets only come in 3 shapes.
Yeah.
I had 4 shapes.
Four-
yeah, I've
four,
actually
is it?
been there and learned how they do it. I've been to
yeah.
the
Belt, the ball, and
the ball, the boot, and the
Bumhole.
bumhole. yeah, the anus.
That's my favourite.
Yeah, this is probably what 50% of the chicken is, to be honest.
Yeah, the rest is eyelids.
Yeah, I went to. I don't want to talk about because I did do a video with McDonald's and I said to them, I will only legitimately put this on my channel if you
Actually,
let.
I've seen that.
Oh, have
video.
you?
Now that you mention it, yes.
it was a teeny, like with some brand deals, they do script it and stuff like that. And I said, look, okay, I don't mind saying a few lines what you want me to say, but I will only put it on my channel. I won't get the fee or anything if I don't agree to what I see or don't. So when we first went into the factory, it's all like washing your hands, boots, and all that stuff. Literally nothing can get in. You can't even breathe.
Right.
And they showed me, oh, this is the chicken. It comes in, and I was like, yep. So where did that chicken come from?
Was it
And they're like,
live chicken?
No.
Originally, one chicken coming into the factory.
I mean, they did it. Yeah.
This is the chicken. It's huge. Just get slices bits off it.
Like there's kebab shops and just carving it off.
We need more anesthetic. The chicken's waking up.
Yeah, it's
It grows back within like minutes, so they just keep shaving it. Yes.
Sorry, vegans.
that's not a bad invention, actually, ever-grown chicken. But no, they just... So, yeah, it just comes in like this. And I could tell on the day as well that they completely like, oh, we've got someone who's filming, we need all the staff. Because they had like 4 people like picking up a chicken breast and inspecting it, going like that. And like one of them looked like he actually cared, and 3 of them definitely did not do that for a living. He was just like... That's it. So I had to edit that clip out. But I was like, no,
We've got to be on set in half an hour.
I said to him, like, well, there's a step before that. Like, where does that chicken come? I mean, that's not a chicken, And they're like, oh, but what happens is a supermarket a farm will have a chicken and then they'll sell like the legs to someone, and then that factory for the McDonald's nuggets has bought the breasts effectively. So they'll another supermarket like Morrison's will go, right, we're going to have the carcass because then we'll make our stock out of it, and then the legs, the wings, some might go into pulled pork stuff. You get in the frozen aisle. So every bit of a chicken. Yeah, well, pulled chicken.
Trade secret there.
And lamb
flavouring on the chicken.
Oh yeah, so some mythical beast in McDonald's was making up. But it was pretty cool because it literally did grind it up, and then there was some machine where seasonings went in. But literally, it did.
That was what actually were they?
Yeah,
season.
Yes. It's just So what was it? Oh, it's just celery, salt, and a few other things. And I was like, no, but it definitely did look like because I've replicated it at home, and it was pretty cool. And then they basically make it into this huge mass. So they grind the chicken down, and then so they've got a sheet of chicken, and then they roll it through a stamper. So the 4 different shapes: the arsehole and the boot and the bell and the ball and the whatever.
The bell of the ball.
yeah. And then it
king of
just
all
gets
nuggets.
recycled and kept being used back up. So when you do bite into it, and you think, oh, it is kind of chickeny. but it's never going to look proper chickeny because it's chicken that's been mashed and then put together to be chicken again. And they freeze it, and then they part fry it, and then they freeze it again, and it's like crazy day.
But my big question is, did you go into the factory dressed as the Burger King?
The Hamburglar running around eating
Alarm start.
Snipers running at it.
Once went on a fancy dress.
Unleash the Grimace.
A big door goes out.
Running around chasing everyone. I once went on a weekend away with some friends, and we all went dressed as Ronald McDonald. You can get these fancy
All of
dress
you
outfits.
guys?
12 of us, and we went into McDonald's, and we were like, staff meeting. And they were just looking at us going like, what?
Please tell me you went into Burger King as well.
We did. This is a weekend away, and there was a Burger King in Butlins inside in the tent, and we were like, we were just like doing football chants that I can't really talk about on this podcast because of profanity.
Is that Minehead?
Yeah.
I was there. Dressed as the Burger King. There was a huge skirmish.
I was just eyeing you from across the tent. Kind of my passive mask on.
Yeah. There we go. That's chicken.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Well, I've learned something today.
There we are.
That was the Chicken Nugget podcast. So we've got some facts about you here.
Oh, nightmare.
You were a graphic designer making animations, and your expertise was low-resolution computer graphics.
Yeah. Well, I started out, first job I had when I left school. Well, I went to college briefly and dropped out and got a job working for Labrooks, which if you've ever been in a betting shop, they have like a series of screens. And I used to do things like animate a horse that would run from one screen to the other.
Would that be in the actual branch of Labrooks, or would that be across? Was that the technology?
It was in every shop.
Oh,
yeah.
wow, okay.
Yeah, they had a system called LES, which stood for Ladbrook Electronic Service or something.
I think it's literally a bloke called Les.
I know.
Here, Les, put that horse on that one. Yeah.
But it was
Brilliant.
It was and it was. I ended up sort of specialising in kind of very blocky pixels, which was great to a point. But sometimes, if you were asked to do something a little bit more kind of challenging, like there was one time that Labrooks had a betting shop in Chinatown because they were big into their horse racing down in Chinatown. They kind of, the shop would have special events on, and we were asked to do a special presentation for Chinese New Year, so Konghai Fat Choi, I think it is. Okay. And they faxed through, because this is how long ago it was, they faxed through the lettering that I had to transform into kind of blocky pixels, and did what I thought, was a fairly rough approximation of Happy New Year in Mandarin. And between the pixels and the poor quality of the fax, something got lost in translation. And the manager of the shop, the Labrooks Chinatown shop, rang up and said, take that down straight away. And basically what I'd spelled out was the word blood that had gone up in the shop.
So is that red and white font for Labrooks normally?
Yeah, well, yeah. So basically, all the customers are in there, and suddenly the word blood just comes up on their screens. So,
Wow.
not my finest moment.
Welcome to hell.
Welcome to Labrooks. Blood. Blood for the blood god.
That's amazing. So low resolution graphics is just like pixelated.
Yeah, really, really pixelated.
Right.
And from there, I learned to do sort of teletext graphics, and that's sort of what I started out as. And then, actually, from Labrooks, I then went to work at Wembley Stadium, where I worked in big pixels, which were on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And, each pixel was actually a light bulb. And part of my job was to actually go into the scoreboard. We had to kind of climb right to the top of the stadium. Then there was this little gangplank that was about that wide. And we had to go out there. And if there was a dead pixel, we literally manually had to unscrew the light bulb and just they were just regular light bulbs. They weren't, like you're finding a lamp
LEDs
at
or
home.
anything like that?
No.
Yeah.
And then from there to teletext.
So would that be the sort of animations that when someone scores a goal at Wembley and there'd be like, I don't know, like a ball hitting the net, or like, I don't know.
Yeah. So goal and it was, so I would do those. I used to get bored. There wasn't actually a lot of work to do.
Right.
I used to, entertain myself. We had a scanner in the office, and I used to put my face under it and then go out and I'd see myself up on the Wembley scoreboard.
Oh, awesome.
Just for something to do, because we were just sort of sitting around doing nothing for most of the day.
So would you have to be there on match days?
Yeah, because we actually scored the matches as well.
Oh, cool.
But the stupid thing was, we couldn't see the pitch, so we had to the only way I knew that someone had scored was if you'd hear the crowd go, "Hey!" and then I'd look at Sky News. So Sky News would always have it before the blokes that actually ran the scoreboard did. And occasionally your finger would slip and you'd put in like, "Oh God, no, 11-1 to Argentina," or something like that. Yeah, it did happen once, and it was up for like a split second that we got the score completely wrong, just by a slip of the finger. Someone took a photo and it ended up in the Sun or something like that.
I just wonder what would happen if you had a streaker and everyone's like, "Way!" 6-0. Ching, 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 ching. So, like, how does that... Sorry, I've got to go back to that. Like, you got it's on a computer and then you put it on there from there?
Well, with Wembley, it was, it was like a little kind of... little screen, and it was like that big, my representation of the scoreboard,
right?
And then I'd just kind of basically be telling that to turn one light bulb off and one light bulb on, and then build a picture up through that.
Okay.
And then for the animation, like flip to the next frame, which
okay, so you'd have to tell it from there.
Yeah, I mean, it was I was quite proud. One of my first thing I ever had on TV actually was the Freddie Mercury tribute concert at Wembley, and the BBC in their broadcast, the first thing they showed was my graphic of Freddie Mercury up on the big screen. It was like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, got to see a lot of concerts.
Yeah, that's like one of those, like, you can always say that you were kind of part of it in a way. Got it framed or something.
No, it's not even on YouTube. I have to keep telling people this story about how at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, the BBC broadcast, it was the first thing anyone saw. No, it's not on YouTube or anything.
So you went from there to teletext then?
Yeah, that was, so it was Ladbrokes to Wembley to teletext, where I was...
How can we summarise teletext to people that... I'm just trying to think...
The Cornish internet, as we used to call it. Yeah, well, it's... And I've got to get this right, haven't I? It's like an over-the-air broadcast system that sort of went between the TV signals or something.
Literally
bizarre.
that.
Yeah, your television would decode, and you'd have, as you say, very low-res graphics and text, and you could look up your holiday times or whatever, or look at Turner the Worm or Bamboozle the quiz, which I think you did all the graphics for those.
Yeah, pretty much everything. I mean, I didn't... Anything that wasn't an advert, I did the graphics generally.
Really? I loved Bamboozle. Those had like the black-haired sort of Lego.
Bamboozler, yes.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
But you brought his whole family in later, didn't you?
Yes. Well, I mean, I can't take credit for it. I designed it.
Wow.
I think you can take credit if you designed it.
Yeah, but the guy who did Bamboozle, he used to sit opposite where we did Digitiser, which poor man, poor man.
I'm trying to think, in America, did they have teletext or anything like that?
Ooh, I think.
Well, no, I think in America generally the picture quality was because back in the day they had fewer lines that made up their pictures, so there wasn't the space to kind of squeeze teletext in between the lines that they had.
Oh, the old Palantir C.
Yeah, basically.
I never knew that.
So it never really made it to America.
Do you still get it now? Or?
No, teletext was completely turned off.
Is it Sweden or Norway? One of the Scandinavian companies, one of the Scandinavian countries still has it.
Right.
Yeah, and it's still an ongoing thing. But it's been a few years now that they turned it off in this country when, everything, the analog signal went. And,
when it was digital, that's the end of that, isn't it? And there's still people who are doing like teletext preservation. And if you've got like old tapes recorded from television, they can, literally pull the teletext off it.
So,
wow, like a timestamp of when you recorded that telly.
I just found my dad's giant chest of old VHS tapes. And these may be being sent to the people who...
be careful what you find on those tapes.
Grim Fandango on Twitter is he's the man who is the kind of Indiana Jones of teletext.
Yeah. So say my mum's got Dirty Dancing recorded on the telly that might have been recorded by a semi-mid-light, not Channel 5 film, would telly...
This is a special version of Dirty Dancing.
No, I mean, it might have got recorded over by something. But like,
with what exactly, Barry?
Were the teletext cut out then? Would it be like, this was what was... So when Dirty Dancing was played on ITV at that time, so it would capture that and then it would change...
the teletext would be still... The information would still be encoded.
Yeah.
Wow,
and even if it's
really
like
smart.
slightly corrupt or thing, like most of it is still there, isn't it? And just like an occasional wrong letter or something.
But people are now piecing kind of corrupted pages back together as well,
Right.
because there's teletext editing software out there.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, things like Digitiser, they're slowly kind of piecing together a complete collection. I thought this stuff was gone forever.
Wow.
But no,
It's not just one page, and it's the whole from that timestamp, or
It's kind of some of the pages, isn't it?
yeah,
at
it's
one
whatever
time?
they can get off
Because
it.
it kind of rotates. That's why you used to have to wait for the little buttons to
that's right.
go through until
Yeah.
until it was broadcasting that bit of information, I presume.
But sometimes they get entire editions of that day's teletext off these tapes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. It's quite a skill.
Yeah. So, how did you sort of come on to do like the stuff with teletext? You got a job there, and did you have to sort of sell it to anyone, or?
Well, I was. I had this reputation as Mr. Pixels. Sorry, that sounds a bit dodgy.
Hello, children.
Children's entertainer, Mr. Pixels. Yeah, fully new, but it's pixelated.
That's all right then. Big in Japan, it's Mr.
Pixels
Pixels.
isn't real, children. Yes, he is. Oh dear. I was Uncle Pixels.
Creepy Uncle Pixels.
What's the secret, Uncle Pixels?
Yeah, because there weren't many people that were doing it. Because by that point, people had moved on to kind of higher quality graphics, and things.
Right.
And I was still sort of peddling, big chunky graphics. So so I got a job there, but again, rather like the Wembley job, there wasn't a lot to do. I mean, once you sort of designed all the fonts and the logos and stuff like that, it's like, I'm kicking my heels really. So I then kind of started pitching ideas of them, like Turn of the Worm, which was the kids' comic strip.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Ended up writing that as well. But I was just entertaining myself really most of the day. I'd get all my work done in the first hour and then just be bored. I started just bunking off early. I used to sneak out. I used to take my coat off. It was pathetic because I worked in this office where it was at these cubicles that kind of came out to about chest height, and I used to take my coat off and drag it along the floor so no one could see that I had my coat, and then go out through the fire escape about 3:30 because I had nothing to do.
Yeah. Wow. So even little bits like when the Bamboozler needed like a Christmas hat on or something.
Yeah.
Just hop on.
They're
and do
just
that?
saying, can you Christmas up Bambo? Or, can you, I don't know, we did all sorts of things. Brian Boozler was his football loving
That's right. I remember
cousin.
that.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, he was meant to look a bit like Bob Monkhouse. That was what I was told to kind of make him like. So, classic kind of quiz show host with the...
Was there ever like a meltdown day or anything like that? Was there a day where the shark hit the fan, so to speak, at teletext, something like that?
Yes. Well, repeatedly with Digitiser, but there was quite early on. Teletext launched with a section called After Hours, which was an adult section. As in, sex advice, and it had there was a comic strip called Turn of the Screw.
God, I remember that.
Yeah, which I drew. I didn't write. It was written by this guy. Never worked out who he was, but he claimed to have written for Viz, but he's not one of the main kind of Viz comic writers. Right. But that's how he somehow got his foot in the door to write this thing about a prison guard called Turn of the Screw, which had swearing in it and stuff.
Yeah, I remember seeing the very first one. Something like, if we get this caper going, we'll be pissing champagne.
Yeah, it was all stuff like that. Yeah, it wasn't great.
This is not Turn of the Worm. It lacks the sense of fun.
Yeah. However, they made the wise decision to put the After Hours pages on the same pages as the kids' pages, except they'd kick in at kind of 11 o'clock at night, which... in theory, fine. However, there was an incident when they didn't change over again the next morning. And so kids kind of, tuned in looking for kind of jokes and, that sort of thing, and got kind of instead advice on anal sex. And suffice to say, the After Hours section got completely removed.
Wow. I guess that's the risk with teletext. It was that simple, wasn't it? I mean, obviously, if the page was there, it's there. It's not like any warnings. It's just...
I mean, it's really setting yourself up for a fall being on the same page. Really
you've got to look for it.
That's how I discovered it, because I went for a late night Turn of the Worm to catch up, and it's like, what the fuck?
Wow.
I remember that. I remember at school, I had a mate called Douglas something, and he started calling me a scrotum. And I thought it was the funniest word I ever heard. I went home and I'd said to my dad, shut up, Dad, you scrotum. And I didn't know what it meant. I just thought it was a funny word. But my mum and dad then trying to tell me off while also trying not to laugh.
Oh,
Anyway,
wow.
That's I
a good word.
digress.
Oh, yeah. It's a good word. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do on teletext in terms of draw? Or is there like...
It was rare that I was. It sounds really arrogant, but it's not. It's more about the nature of the simple things that I was asked to draw.
Right.
It was rare that anything kind of gave me any trouble.
You didn't get like a Picasso or...
It was anything where if it was too multicoloured.
Right.
Because to kind of you couldn't have one colour on top of the other without putting in these other codes that lock colours into certain places. You were limited in what was doable, but at the same time it was surprising how kind of flexible it could be and how a lot of it you could just imply certain things by using kind of colours in different places.
It's a bit like the sprites with Daz, wasn't it? Did you know gaming? That's someone else that we had on here.
A sort of earlier version, really. And teletext art's made a bit of a comeback on Twitter, thanks to Steve Horsley, isn't it?
Thanks to lovely Steve, who I was at school with. You should get him on it. Yeah, I was at school with Steve.
Actually. My God.
Well, Steve, I was at school with him. I've known him since I was like sort of 13 or something like that. I then got him the job at Ladbrokes after I left, and then from there I got him the job at Teletext. I was working in the advertising department. And now he's become kind of basically the foremost teletext artist in the country, which I know admittedly is a bit like sort of saying, I don't know, you're the best trebuchet kind of operator in Britain. But he is. He's a talented boy.
Yeah. So you went into working with kids' TV after that?
Wow.
Well, Digitiser years then.
Let's skip those. Everyone knows the story.
Oh, no. Is there a story, is there?
No.
Oh, there are many stories.
Okay.
Would you have read it back in the day, Digitiser? It was literally the video game news on teletext.
Yes, I would have, definitely.
That was...
Yeah.
Well, I fell into that because, again, I had so little to do in my day job. So I ended up, it was just before Teletext had launched, because they took over from Oracle that was there before. And they were sort of saying, if anyone's got any ideas for sections, and I foolishly said, oh, you could do a video games section. And look, I've done this breakdown of how much money they could make.
Is that through sponsorship or something?
Through advertising, lots of 0898 numbers.
Okay, yeah.
And they called me bluff. The editor said, okay, fine, but you can write it. And I ended up writing it with this guy called Tim Moore. And then that was my life for the next 10 years doing that.
Right.
And then I stopped doing the graphics altogether and just started writing about video games, which, having not been any kind of journalist in any shape or form prior to that, it became my life.
And it was such a huge thing. Millions a day would tune into it.
In the early days,
kind of gave us the early taste of the magazines dying off, because I'd see things in whatever magazine.
Games Master magazine.
I kind of knew that weeks ago because it was on bloody digital.
Well, that's it. We were lucky enough to be daily, so it kind of there was no internet to compete with us.
Yeah,
we were the only daily games magazine at the time.
How did the industry treat you? Did they treat you like? I was going to say, did they treat you like people who were getting millions a day and completely outsold the mags? Or I'm guessing not by the reaction there.
No, they hated us. We weren't taken seriously. We couldn't have screenshots on there. So,
of course, that's true.
So between that and the fact that when they didn't take us seriously and didn't believe our kind of viewing figures, we then started to take the piss out. People would start to be disrespectful. That, just made it even worse. But we, gradually we got a bit of a reputation in the industry, and people kind of knew they had to be friendly with us. Otherwise, we would be rude about it. There was this one guy who was the PR guy for IDOS, who published Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And we went to some big trade show, and at the end of the meeting with this guy, he said, do you like my bag? And it's all right. And he said, well, I've got a new one. Okay. And he went, well, yeah, because last year, in your write-up, you said I had a girl's bag.
Brilliant.
And he'd remembered this for a year and bought a more manly bag.
He ate away at himself.
So you just made like a throwaway random gag, and it really taken it to heart. My clutch purse. Was the new bag just like a block of metal?
Like a Mad Max bag had spikes on it.
Toolbox.
It's got that Yorkie logo, no women across it. I'm a man, look at my bag.
Wow. So you did that for 10 years then,
well, it was the first 4 or 5 years were actually within teletext. And then I ended up working from home, doing it by myself, basically. And during that time that I was working from home, that was when I sort of started trying to get into TV.
Right, okay.
And writing scripts and sending them off, which eventually paid off. But it took a while.
Was it your first, something to do with Sooty, is it? Your first TV writing job was on Sooty?
Yeah. That was the first thing I think I ever had on TV was... and that came about by accident. I'd given up at that point writing for TV.
Have you ever written any howlers, or have you ever written any that you thought that would be amazing now, or that that you're thinking, this is never going to work and landed, or anything like that?
On Sooty, there was a lot I was proud of on Sooty. We did some really cool stuff. This is possibly an exclusive. I was working on it on the year that Sooty turned 50. I think it was some big anniversary year, and they wanted to do something big to market that was going to kind of get headlines, and we came that close to giving Sooty a voice.
Wow.
Yeah, and we discussed it. I wanted to give him a thick sort of Glaswegian accent.
Wow. Looking back, are you glad that didn't happen?
We would have been lynched. You can't give Sooty a voice.
It would have to be the most ill-fitting voice, so wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Sooty. You're welcome, Matthew.
Can of Iron Brew, a battered Mars bar.
Someone should go back and redub the Sooty episodes. But when he whispers, taps and whispers.
Yeah.
Just use the voice of SPG from the Young Ones or something. Yeah.
But Sweep, we used to script all his lines. They were actually said. So Sooty was always Sooty taps and whispers, and then Richard, who was the guy who'd taken over from Matthew, just would then repeat whatever Sooty had supposedly whispered in his ear. But with Sweep, they were all written out because the guy who puppeteered Sweep used to have this thing that he put in his mouth, this cardboard kind of, I don't know if it even had a name. And he had to speak the lines, so it would all come out as this squeak. But they were made because I got to go to the Sooty warehouse. Sooty was based in a warehouse which had all these puppets on shelves which dated back kind of decades.
All the retired Sooties.
Yeah, all the retired Sooties. Like, really,
the Sooty graveyard.
Fantastic place. But there was this massive box there of these things that this guy used to put in his mouth that were made of cardboard. And I was told...
Something they used for Punch and Judy?
Well, I thought that... But they were all made, the specific Sweep ones were made by apparently this same woman, and she'd been doing it since the very start of Sooty. She handmade them in her house and would do loads at a time.
And it's
This was just Pringles on the roof of the house.
Once she's done, they go into the tube and
And defective ones make you squeak. I've got an idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
So she had a bit of a cottage industry doing Sweep's voice. Yeah. It was always fascinating, Sooty. Amazing politics behind the scenes.
Really?
Well.
What is there?
Probably can't say.
Okay.
Well, put it this way, I worked on 2 series. My name is only on one of those. I was lead writer on both.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was that after the final edit or something? Is that?
I don't know if I can even say.
No.
Let's not take
Can you
the risk.
say it in a Sooty voice?
Just tap the table. I'll tap and whisper.
No, it was fine. Yeah. Translator. Wow.
I know you wrote an episode of EastEnders. Is it true that you got beatboxing into it?
Yeah, I did.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I've always wondered if that was true or not. There we are.
Yeah, I think I did get beatboxing into it. That was another bizarre experience, EastEnders, because I ended up writing about 15 drafts of this bloody script because with that, you've kind of got to fit it into all the episodes either side of you. And they're all being written simultaneously. So one writer would change something in an episode before yours, and that would then have a ripple effect.
Wow. Is it multiple writers on that then?
Yeah.
So, so just directors and producers that oversee it, and then you have lots of guest writers then?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's you kind of have a big meeting at the start where they talk about it. I mean, I was a big EastEnders fan at the time. I haven't watched it since I worked on it. So it's such a horrible experience. Which I may come to later when you may ask me my most embarrassing moment.
Okay, we'll remember that one.
But it was, where was I going with that? I've lost my thread. But it was a huge sort of operation, and getting to visit Albert Square was really cool, and just seeing how much of it was just like plastic and stuff. But as a fan at the time, I mean, you used to get kind of like 6 months worth of stories kind of in a big document like that. So for me, it was like, oh my God, what was it? Is it Vicky Fowler's coming back? It's Christmas.
Ian Beale is a vampire.
Yeah.
Did you have any like free reign to kill anyone off or anything like that? Or was it quite?
Not really. No, because you had to,
Kind of like a filler.
continuity wise. Yeah. And I my episode, was it the Monday? Yeah, it was the Monday, which again ties in with my most embarrassing story.
Right.
But it it was. I mean, it was quite a cool time to write on it because it was just when they brought Dirty Den back.
Yes.
So it was a good era. But I had a real issue because as a Eastenders superfan as I was at the time.
He was dead, really.
Well, he was dead, yeah. And
Harold Bishop dead.
I remembered him as a certain way, but they made this big thing about Dirty Den. We don't want him to be as he was.
Hello,
It's like,
Princess.
well, why not? We want him, hello, Princess.
Hello, Princess.
We want him to be how the audience remember him. So basically, the character had to talk in this basically series of catchphrases. So it was like hello princess and stuff. And it was like, but Dirty Den wasn't a gangster. He wasn't a villain. He was sort of just about anyway. I could rant about that for hours.
No, that's it.
But I struggled with that.
He did come back with a slightly different persona.
He was totally different. Yeah. Well, I suppose dying and being resurrected. Just ask Jesus.
And I love it. Healing hands.
Yeah, we've got him on next week, actually.
Yeah.
Is it true that if you write an episode of EastEnders, you occasionally get checks through the mail for like 79 pence because it's been shown in Abyssinia?
Yeah, I mean, I get that anyway with things that, and I will get kind of 39p because some show I've written has been shown in Belgium or weird kind of places that I've barely even heard of. And I was going to say the Vatican City then, but I can't.
That would be interesting.
An episode of Sooty, But yeah, I mean, it is one of the weird perks of writing in TV is that I will just get like kind of tiny royalty checks every now and then. Doesn't happen very often, but a couple of times a year.
So, as you say, have you come up with any crazy ideas? I mean, some kids' TV, you're probably not exposed to it that much, Stuart. I mean, do you know what In the Night Garden is?
I do, yes, because my friend was quite freaked out by Iggle Piggle.
Right, yeah. I mean, that you need some serious, like, I don't know, thinking to come up with something like that, but it works. The kids love it.
Yeah, it's repetition. A lot of it is about repetition, I think, with preschool. I've not ever really written preschool apart from Sooty's probably the youngest in terms of an audience that I've written for.
Yeah.
I've done courses, BBC training courses on how to write for CBBS, and I just kind of got to the end of it and went, this is not for me.
Because it's just literally a loop of the same stuff. Like,
I just thought I'll be going insane if I have to write this. I mean, I wrote after Sooty, the next thing I worked on was a show called My Parents Are Aliens.
I've heard of that one. Yeah,
which that was that ran for quite a long time. That was great. It was one of my favourite ones to work on. We did some mental stuff in that. Not my episode, but there was one episode where one of the characters got crucified. I mean, literally, there were things in that show that you would not get away with now.
I missed that one. Bloody hell.
Well, no, actually, I say got crucified. A character crucified themselves.
a self-crucifixion. Oh, that's fine.
Self-crucifixion, yeah.
Look at us on YouTube.
Selfie.
The kids love it.
Yeah.
It's the Momo challenge of its day. Nail yourself to a tree.
It was weird. I mean, it's in the time that I've been working in kids' TV, just seeing what you can and can't get away with and how it's changed.
Yeah.
How now.
That's it. Has it changed, like with the censorship and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I would always think that kids' TV, I don't know, it's probably been fairly mild anyway. But I mean, is it getting worse? Would you say? Or?
Say getting worse. I mean, it's there's certain things that have always been in flux, like the word fart. Right? Can you say fart on kids' TV? And sometimes yes, other times someone will kick off about it.
Oh, so it's really down to that independent commissioner or something.
Yeah, like that. And at the moment, we're having a bit of a debate on an episode of a show that I'm working on about whether we can do a story where a character gets a tattoo. In fact, today, as we record this, they're having a big meeting about it, the BBC.
Really?
Yeah, whether the character's 18.
Oh, right.
And he's been with the show a while, but it isn't, because it's in a kids' TV show, can you show a character having a tattoo done?
I suppose it depends where it is and what it's of.
Well, yeah. Believe it or not, the storyline does end with he gets the tattoo, he doesn't like it. Instead of getting it removed, he gets it amended, and then it ends up looking like, and this is maybe this is part of the controversial aspect of it. It does end up reading "I love bums."
God damn it!
So
the kids always going on about wanting an "I love bums" tattoo. Bloody television!
Oh wow! What was it before?
I can't remember. I can't remember what he got.
I love gums.
Yeah.
No, I love anuses.
Yeah. I hate bums.
Yeah. Why did I have this done? They're my favourite thing.
Oh god.
So yeah, it's a minefield. But I mean, I've got quite good at knowing generally what you can and can't do. I mean, even when I submitted the tattoo storyline, I thought, they're probably going to have an issue with this, and they did.
Right.
But yeah, enough to have a big meeting about it.
Yeah, wow. And so these people around the table just trying to talk about that in a serious way as well.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. It's.
Do you find the BBC harder to deal with than other companies?
I mean, I mostly work for the BBC. So,
I probably want to ask you that.
So they're good.
I mean, it's like it's and down to sort of individuals at the end of the day, and people have different degrees of sensitivity to things. I mean, there are times that there have been things that I've thought were inappropriate. I mean, in fact, that was why I took my name off of Sooty, because
you took your name off?
Yeah,
Right.
Is because there were certain things that were kind of being snuck into the episodes that I didn't think were appropriate for the audience, and I took a stand over it. So even I can be a bit woke sometimes, but.
Sooty getting a tattoo.
Yeah, but it said I love Sweep's bum.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I think we're going a bit close, Scott.
What's that? Do you love Sweep's bum?
How still? Just with a biro, I suppose.
I've had a Glaswegian accent.
I love Sweep's bum.
Yeah.
Apologies to Scottish
I
viewers.
picked this up on the. Yeah.
And Sooty, if he's watching.
Yeah. Whole of Scotland. Yeah, sorry.
So has it changed massively in terms of? It has changed, but it doesn't tend to be. I mean, I'm smart enough not to kind of put in loads of sort of references to drugs or stuff like that. It's more just things that, religious sensitivity has changed quite a lot. Again, when My Parents Are Aliens, I did an episode called Wrongs of Praise, which is one of my favourite things I've ever written, which is all about science versus religion. And in there, I quite kind of boldly sort of go, religion's stupid. You should believe in science.
Yeah.
I may have seen that episode. Does the father dress up with a big hat and goes, you must all you believe is rubbish and smash something?
Yeah, he smashes a model of the International Space Station while wearing a pair of underpants on his head.
Yes, I remember that image.
Starts his own religion.
Yeah, because he's gone really deep into his own nonsense religion, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I do remember that. Crikey.
Yeah, we did some.
It's far too old to have been watching it, but that's not the point. It was good.
It's a great show.
You sort of still do that now, but you got back into video game writing as well.
Yeah, it was a few years ago because I sort of disappeared from. I say from public view. I hadn't really, because I was still writing kids' TV, but I stopped being Mr Biffo.
Yeah.
And then I just missed writing about video games, and thought, it's been long enough now. And dragged myself out of retirement, and that sort of has snowballed over the last sort of 4.5 years to the point of restarted a website. I even trademarked Digitiser. I now own it.
Oh, nice.
And then doing YouTube stuff, which, as you both know, because you've both been in the last
We're in
series
YouTube
Digitiser,
now.
we are there. Bubbles.
There's like a square around us.
Yeah, so at my advanced years, I've ended up becoming sort of a YouTuber.
Yeah.
The oldest person at the party. I feel like that guy in a nightclub who kind of is in the corner who really shouldn't be there.
Oh man, it's summer in the city and things like that,
Yes.
where the average age of everyone is about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Embryos.
Yeah.
It's just you and a load of field of embryos.
Yeah.
It
really is
excruciating.
Yeah. But I think it's cool that you've drawn on that audience to help, because you obviously did a crowdfunding campaign to help with the Digitiser series, right? And just to help give that some momentum. So you've obviously built up a community.
Yeah, I mean,
I've
been really lucky. I mean, I wouldn't say, we're back to kind of 1.5 million viewers like we used to be on teletext, but the fans that kind of fans, I always feel strange saying that word, the audience.
Peasants.
The scum who support me.
Our support
Love you.
scum. That's my favourite type.
Yes. Wealthy scum. They're the ones I like. They've been incredibly supportive of basically just sort of trusting me to do whatever I wanted to do, because I did a series which Stuart was in a couple of years ago called Mr Biffo's Found Footage, which is just a stream of consciousness nonsense.
I've seen a lot of that. It was quite out there.
Yeah. That was me kind of really letting off steam and going, right, if I had no one telling me what I can and can't do, this is probably it.
I've never seen anything like that before. It is awesome. If you guys haven't seen it, do check it out. But was there any parallels between the way you used to write and that, or was that just like you say, it's just literally letting go and anything you want to do?
It was letting go, and a lot of it was teaching myself how to edit, and a lot of it was put together in the edit. There was one thing that you did with a hammer, where you were the tea planter.
Yeah.
Now that you would be a character called the tea planter, and we realised afterwards that we hadn't given you a cup of tea to hold, which was the whole point of the joke. But for some reason, you were given a hammer. And then kind of ended up repurposing that into this weird 30-second thing, which don't forget the hammer's on Hammer Day or something like that. Yeah. It's
Right.
just Stuart coming at the camera with a hammer.
How did that come about? Have you met Stuart before? And you...
Do you know what? How did we first communicate? I don't know. Must have been through Twitter.
I have no idea. That's really
I was trying to think. Yeah, now you brought it up. I was trying to think on the way
the
here.
same person?
One of us doesn't actually exist. So it's in the other person's head.
Both got I love bum tattoos.
In the same place. So we love the same bums.
Well, I knew of you because my daughter was a fan. But I don't know.
Obviously, I knew from the teletext. I don't know. Isn't that odd?
Yeah.
I remember inviting you to the...
What are you even doing here?
Jesus fucking Christ. Yes, we invited you to the Game Child screening, didn't we? So I must
How
was
did
the
you do
first
that?
time I met you.
Yeah,
How
but
did
we
you
were talking about
invite? How did you invite Paul?
I said, Paul,
Pixel.
Mr.
would you-
Pixels.
Uncle Pixels. There will be some children at a screening.
Please put your hands together for Mr. Pixels.
Oh my god!
Pixelated genitals.
That's going to be on another fan footage. I think.
Yeah, Mr. Pixels. He's
It's coming.
Those were the days.
yeah. But yeah, I was at the Game Child screening.
Yeah,
but beyond that, I
we
don't
must
know.
have been speaking before that, mustn't we? About something or other.
Just going to send a random invite out.
Yes.
Oh, I'll come.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Who do I remember from teletext? Tim Moore, Paul Rudd. Tim Moore, Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
We must have chatted on Twitter. But it's weird because normally when I meet you, we're doing something. I know we are now, but this is the first time you and I really have kind of sat down and chatted for an extended
Other
amount
than
of
like
time.
saying hello briefly after the screening, that's probably it.
Yeah,
isn't
and
it?
it's like we're kind of Stuart, you're here, great. Put this wig on, and I'm going to paint your face red.
That's just when I go around for tea.
See you in 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah, so our phrase will be ready in a minute. Dance for our amusement until
Yeah.
What was it for you when you first saw what Paul got you to do for that? Did you have a prep of that, or was it?
Oh,
turn up
I knew what I was getting into
Right,
because
okay.
the bizarre humour was very much, I think, a digitiser back in the day. I nearly said of teletext back in the day, but it was
definitely not that.
quite specifically digitiser.
Right. So there was a slight sort of parallel there in a way.
Oh,
but then
yeah,
it
there
just gave
was
you that
a
free
lot of-
video as well to express and literally no holds barred.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love editing, and I love.
Right.
The digitizer stuff that I'm doing now. It scratches the sort of retro gaming itch that I got. I love doing the research that comes with that, but it's really doing the piecing it together that I love. I mean, I've ended up being in front of the camera, which it's not always my preference. It was when we were putting Digitiser together, I kind of didn't want to be in it, and then it was Paul Gannon who co-hosts it with me. Was like, you can't not be in it. You created Digitiser, you kind of are not going to get away with it. And I was really apprehensive about it because I've not really done anything on camera before. I'm much more happy sort of writing stuff than just sort of hiding in the darkness.
Because the found footage was lots of snippets, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not in that at all.
Right.
I loved directing it. And
the way you're in it is through the edit.
Yeah. It's got my stamp all over it.
Yeah.
But when it came to sort of being in front of the camera, I was really nervous. But then once I sat there and I kind of started to kind of go, well, you can sort of direct the flow of something while sat in front of the camera. And then I just sort of started to see it as a creative challenge as opposed to kind of, yay, hey, here I am, everyone, look at me.
Yeah.
I'm on camera. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the possibilities of just sort of being sat there and the pressure of that. I don't know. It's quite difficult to explain. But
Did you learn anything from your Digitiser crowdfunding and actually the filming? Was there anything retrospectively you'd do again, or
yes, all of it. I mean, it's the whole thing's been just one baptism of fire, really.
Right,
Found footage taught me a lot. Digitiser was so ridiculously ambitious. We were never going to pull off what we attempted to achieve.
I thought what you achieved was really good.
Yeah, I'm incredibly proud of it.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I think you did, didn't you? You delivered on all of
think
it,
we did what we set out to do, which was make a TV show on a minuscule budget, really, that was a bit sort of wacky and crazy. I mean, it's all little things like kind of doing the sound differently. I'd budget it differently. We're hoping to launch a new crowdfunding. I'm not going to call it Series 2. It's not going to be Series 2, and it's going to be different to Series 1. It'll have a different name. It'll still be Digitiser. Something, but not Digitiser the show. That's an exclusive, because my wife, who produces it with me, we've only just kind of realised that this is the way we're going to approach the next series. The way we spend the money through the crowdfunding will be different, and at the moment we're putting regular content up on the channel with a view to kind of exploring how we'll do the next series, and whether there's areas that we can kind of go, we'll cut corners there, and then we'll have us driving around a racetrack in a car and doing a destruction derby, that sort of thing. Right. Because we spent a fortune just on bloody cameras last time. I mean, the cost of the cameras was just astronomical. And at the end of the day, I don't care whether it's 720p or 1020p. Really.
One of the reasons we film in here is we can use their cameras for free.
Yeah.
I mean, except for that one that I brought from home.
Yes.
So,
that is right. We
feel your pain on that front.
It's just hard to ever get in here, but once we're in here, we never leave. Which is a bit like Sooty by the sound of it. Yeah. We're going to be on the shelf like Sooty. So, okay, we've got 3 questions that we normally ask. You tease it a little bit. What's the most famous person you've ever met, other than Sooty, actually? I'm quite starstruck.
Sooty, I suppose. I've met quite a few because of working in TV.
Goujon John.
God, bloody Goujon John.
He's a meme now, isn't he? He's ascended.
I think I tweeted you. There's a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk that I follow, who's quite a large entrepreneur, and I think he had done some sort of branding deal where he used something which is pretty much identical to what you've done. He's like doing something about chicken nuggets or something. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. And I was like, what is this?
I know. I discovered him, and no, he's left me behind. Really? I've never met him, but he communicated with him a lot.
So was he a guy that you went on one of those sites like Fiverr or something?
And he was the first guy I found, which I got spoiled with him, really, because he was so brilliant, and then no one else was quite
he totally gets it, doesn't he?
Yeah,
immediately, every time.
And you send him your script and he just wins it off.
And in the end, he so got what I was doing, he was leaving in his outtakes because he knew that I'd use them in some way. I'd edit something with him. And I mean, the whole found footage series, just because he was so good. I mean, it started out as like one little sketch, and by the end, because the final episode of found footage, we ended up doing basically a short film, with quite high quality production values and CGI and stuff. The whole thing. We had people running around in voiceover Pete masks, and we had holograms of him. And it was insane.
Do you think he realised what he was doing, or did he ever see it? Do you know?
Well, I mean, because he asked me if he could use some of my stuff in one of his videos.
Oh, like a montage.
Yeah. And because he's now got a channel that just overnight kind of ended up. Yeah, it's got like 1 million subscribers.
He's got a YouTube
ridiculous.
channel. Oh, right. So
he got kicked off of Fiverr, you see, because all these gamers started asking him to do adverts where he asked for credit card numbers, and that violated Fiverr's terms of service. So he had to go.
I never knew that's what it was about. Actually. Oh my God!
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
A few exclusives today. Wow. Yeah. So go back. Who was the most famous person?
Well, I don't know if this counts as meeting, but it's probably my...
That's my mum that went down that territory. She said we went to a Janet Jackson concert. No, what was it? We went to Kelly Clarkson concert, and she met Kelly Clarkson. We actually were just in the audience.
Well, mine is in the same ballpark. However, when I used to work at Wembley Stadium...
Kelly Clarkson concert.
Yeah, I met Barry's
mum. You're my dad?
Hang on, not that old.
No, I know.
So when I worked at Wembley, I got to see a lot of gigs. And we used to get, it was really cool on event day. Really cool, he says, because this is about food. On event days, we used to get given a snack box with, it was great, sandwiches, crisps, and some juice. And there were 3 of us working on the scoreboard. But we only needed one person to turn up for event day. So it was great. I used to get 3 snack boxes on those days. But I used to go and sit out in the stadium and have my lunch. And on this one particular day, which was the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, funnily enough, I went and sat out in the stadium, and I was right at the top, at the very back, so like directly opposite the stage. And I got my snack box, and I had my Just Juice, and I was sitting there, and I was thinking, because normally on events, the stadium is like really bustling. There's like kind of trucks sort of, going around, and there's people doing it on the rigging, and, people kind of laying out sort of pads on the grass to protect the grass. And I was saying, it's really quiet in here. There's no one around. And then a load of musicians kind of came out on stage. I couldn't quite see who they were because I was a long way away. And then a singer, and it was basically Queen and David Bowie, and they came out and sang Under Pressure in a completely, to me,
like a private,
literally and I found out years later in a biography of David Bowie that he had specifically asked the stadium to be cleared for his sound check.
Wow.
So it was me and David Bowie and Queen in Wembley Stadium. And Under Pressure is, anyway, one of my favourite songs of all time.
You had your private gig.
Yeah, I had a private Queen and David Bowie gig.
I just got this vision of him after they finished. Nice one, lads! Cheers, Paul! Do you want a crisp? Wow, that's a really cool story. I think that tops probably the most famous people, really. I mean, they didn't see you, but I mean that's,
no, they didn't have a clue I was there.
I had Bowie and Queen, crikey.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who else. Did someone else say Queen? Or was it Eli said he might have met Queen?
That's a very Eli response, isn't it? Yeah.
He got passed off with someone else, wasn't it? Was it Rick Wakeman? He got passed off with someone else. But...
Palmed off with Rick Wakeman.
Oh, come on.
I think we have to get Rick Wakeman on. He just seems to come up all the time.
Get him on into the gold cake, the work.
That's it.
We wanted Peter Gabriel or better.
Duran, that was it. Yes. Have you ever been in a local newspaper?
Yes. When I was 15, I used to... It sounds like, when I say this, it's going to sound like there's been a natural kind of, career path for me. But I used to at school write and put on these stupid shows, and sometimes which were called the Hoon shows. I don't know why. Sometimes, and we used to, have this gang of mates. We used to call ourselves the Hoon. It's really embarrassing now. I was even saying this out loud. And it was all sort of sub Monty Python type stuff. But we did a couple of shows for charity. And at school, I was presented with one of those giant checks, and that was the photo, which my parents had up in their house for years. And I hated the photo because I was one of those kids with a bum fluff moustache. And in the photo, I look older than the bloody headmaster. I look like I'm about like 58 or something like that. With my tie and my glasses and my moustache. But
really?
So yeah, that was, I think, the only time.
Right. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Most embarrassing moment. I mean, you might have touched on EastEnders if you knew that, but I mean, if there's...
I was trying to think. I did have quite a good Wembley Stadium one.
All right. You can... Boobs on the screen, something like that?
No. Well, I'll skim over the Wembley Stadium one. I got a call from sometimes on event days, we'd be asked to put up like a message for a sponsor, and they'd ring through and say, could you sort of say, welcome to Mr. So-and-so, because he's got a private box or something like that. We got a call from the control room and they said, could you put up a sign saying Wembley welcomes Guy Sports? And I thought, okay, yes. So I did that. So I typed it in, GUI Sports. And if you remember, I used to score the games by watching Sky Sports on the TV.
Okay.
And Richard Keys, who was the presenter there, was sat in his box with the Wembley scoreboard behind him. And I hit the button and up flashes the words, Wembley welcomes Guy Sports. The phone starts ringing off the hook. Oh, no. What the hell have you done? Sky Sports. Anyway, so that was fairly embarrassing because it was in front of an entire stadium of people and on national TV. However, EastEnders. So I got this job on EastEnders, massive EastEnders fan. Didn't get on terribly well with my script editor, who wasn't very good at giving information, and I was told I was going to have this meeting, and to kick off the kind of writing process of my episode. And I said to her, what do I need to do to prepare? She said, oh no, it's just come in, ask any questions you want. We'll talk about your episode a bit, and that's it. So I came into this meeting. There was a whole load of kind of producers and the like there. I was writing the Monday episode, and everyone else, there were 4 other writers who were doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we sit there. It's quite intimidating. I hadn't written a lot at that time. How the hell I ended up on EastEnders, I've no idea. EastEnders written by the man who wrote Sooty. But I was sat there and they said...
Glaswegian.
This year we're going to make Dirty Den Glaswegian, and he's going to have a tattoo on his chest that says, I love bums. So, of course, Monday, so I had to go first. And they said, so, Paul, do you want to go first? And I was like, okay, yeah, tell us about your episode. And I sort of went, well, yeah, it's like it says in the, the outline you gave me. Yeah, I haven't really got anything to say about it. And the atmosphere just shifted in the room.
Oh.
And I could feel it. And they sort of looked at me. There was one of the producers in particular, just like it was like an absolute death stare. And they were like, right, okay. And James, do you want to talk about your episode? And he went, we open on the moon, hanging in the sky, and we pan down to Alfie standing on the door. And basically, that was what I was expected to do.
Oh, because you were Monday.
Pitch my episode and sell it to them. And I just kind of gone, yeah, I don't know, really. It's awful. It was like, that's literally, it was the lowest point of my entire career.
But you still got the episode on.
Oh, I never got asked back. That meeting pretty much killed it.
Oh, no. Oh. Yeah. Well, I think we've just pretty much run out of time for today. But,
I'm going to fire in one last question just to ruin the schedule.
Yes.
The
memory card.
Where did the use of language on Digitiser come from? Is this something that always massively amused me? It was a huge sort of influence on me growing up, and has been for years. The sort of very specific way the bizarrely used language on Digitiser. And Amiga Power magazine kind of did it as well in a different way. But is it something you consciously did, or just messing with words?
It's messing with words. It's funny enough, I've likened it recently to the way I use editing. It's like sort of juxtaposing two things that you wouldn't expect next to one another. So a funny word with, a funny adjective. And Goujon John is a good example of kind of how I like two things that you don't expect together. And I'm sort of, and I enjoy editing in exactly the same way. I've realised it's the same part of my brain that I'm using as I do when I'm kind of stringing a sentence together. And it's that surprise. It's kind of, you read reading a sentence and then just getting a slap around the face because you just hit upon a word or a phrase that you're not expecting in the middle of something else.
Like it wouldn't be, here's a load of recommendations, it's recommend me do.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff.
Mock 'em off.
Probably, yes, absolutely.
Right.
Chow Ning Ning being my absolute
oh my
favourite.
God, I'd forgotten about Chow Ning Ning.
We had that printed on a dot matrix printer, so it took forever, on a big banner like that, and tried to put it up in the sixth form common room, and it lasted about a week. And I ended up having it in my room instead at home. Yeah.
Chow Ning.
Mainly because nobody understood it, and that amused us even more.
Good. See, that's what, that was for me, that was it. If it confused people, I found it funny.
Joke's never funny until somebody hasn't got it. That's absolutely true.
They're annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Paul, if people want to find you, my home address.
I'll be waiting here for you.
Yeah.
Fight me.
Come at me.
So obviously, Mr Biffo, you Twitter,
Twitter, Mr Biffo, YouTube, Digitiser 2000, digitiser2000.com for the website. That's it, I think. And if they check it out, the series, both of you guys are on it at various points.
Yeah,
we still got an interview with you that hasn't come out yet.
Oh yeah, there was a little bonus footage.
Yeah, that's going to come out soon. Hopefully.
Yeah, I was playing the Simpsons game. I just loved it. I was like pumping up the balloon and all that stuff. But
and Stuart, you seem to be in almost every episode as well.
Yeah, I do sneak in some way. Sometimes I'm unrecognisable because I've got lobster claws and a big sort of lumpy head.
Yeah, that's great. All right, well, thanks very much, Paul, for coming on.
It's been a joy.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you very soon.
Cheers.
Barshens!